Hey y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. I am Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy Gear, and as always, I've got my buddy and co-host Hans from the Hans ETX YouTube channel. Hey Hans, what's going on tonight in the big city of Ben Wheeler, Texas?
I've never heard those two things said in the same sentence. The big city of Ben Wheeler, we do have a flashing light, which is pretty cool. And they just
Well, it's a big
redid
deal.
the intersection there so the 18 wheelers could turn without running over the curb. So pretty excited about that.
That's a big week there. Wow,
Oh
man.
man, but they always wait till like school's about to start,
Yeah.
and so it's just all the moms are freaking out because it's just gonna pile up traffic. All
Well, that's the
all
perfect time
700
for
people.
it's perfect time for road construction is the week that school starts
They
back.
always
Yeah.
they always start right before school starts, and trying to drop off all the kids in the morning. It's going to be a nightmare. But we are not talking about kids' first day of school on this podcast. That you might be able to check
No,
that out.
we have just we've just alienated every text dot worker that listens to the show now. Now they
I
all
know.
hate us.
I've got a good buddy. I got a good buddy that works for TextDot, and I'm going to tell him not to listen this week. But we're going to hit you with a bunch of night vision talk right now. And this week we're going to be reviewing the PTS. It's the Flir Thermosight Pro PTS536, and this is a scope. This is the third in the trio of thermals that Flir came out with recently. First one that came out, as you know, was the PTS233 that we did a review on. The second one was the PTS736, and we finally got the 536s in. We've had a chance to use them. We've had a chance to play with them, shoot some hogs with them. And so we're going to be talking about that today. First, Jason's going to run down the specs and features as he always does. We're going to peel back his brain, the resident expert of all things night vision. So why don't you run down the
Wow.
specs for us, Jason?
I'm getting old. I should have written down some notes because I always forget stuff the older I get. But yeah, we'll run those
You
down.
do always
Yeah,
forget. I feel
I
like
do. I do. It's terrible. But I'm getting old. That's what happens when you get in your 40s.
yeah,
But
that's all
all
right.
right, so Han set it up there. The 536s are in. We had a couple units come in a few weeks ago, and as always, the very first one always goes to Hans. Hans and I both try to get those, but normally he ends up with it sometimes before me. So he got one of them, and he's been using it for a few weeks. Did get a shipment in, a big shipment of a lot more this week, and we'll have more coming next month as well. But so running down the features on the PTS 536. Again, it is by Flir, and it is the Thermosight Pro Series. It is a 320 by 256 thermal core resolution. It's at 12 microns, and it's using the new Flir Boson core. It is 60 hertz refresh rate, and just so there's no confusion, they're all 60 hertz. There was some confusion on the 233s if they were 30 or 60 hertz, but all the Thermosight Pros are 60 hertz. So there's that. It has all the standard Flir color palettes in it. It has the different color reticles, all the things there. It does have internal video recording. That is one of the claims to fame on this unit. It does not record audio, but it does record video, and it does a very nice job of it. It is a 50 millimeter objective lens, and it also is a 4 power optical magnification. That is the base magnification is 4 power, and it does have a 2 times and 4 times digital zoom, so you can go up to 16 power digital zoom on the unit. It comes standard as the other Thermosight Pros do, with the quick detach mount pre-attached to it. It has 2 QD throw levers. It is a return to zero mount, so you can pull that off and put the move the scope from multiple rifles or put it back on and hold zero. So again, that's the basic rundown on it. I'm not sure what I've forgotten. I will say this: it does use two. I know I forgot. I already remembered right here. It's got two CR123A batteries, and it does have the option of running an external USB battery pack on it, which is you can just pick your own up. It doesn't have to be anything specific from Flir. They do provide the cable that you need. It's the same cable that you hook to your computer to pull the pictures and video off. You can use that cable as external power source as well. But Hans, have I forgot anything? What have I left off in that list?
Did you talk about the focus rings,
No, it does
the
have two.
eyepiece and
It is, yeah,
objective?
and that's important. I took that for granted, but as compared to the 233, the PTS 233 is a fixed focus on the objective lens, and the 536 as well as the 736 are focusable. They do have a focus ring on the front. All three of the scopes do have the rear diopter focus, which just focuses the lens that you're looking through there. For your eye to the screen. That's standard on most all optics. But again, the 536 as well as the 736 has a focusable objective.
Good job. I think you got it all. I don't think you left anything out.
Good. Well, I'm sure in a minute I'll think of something that I left out. But
Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
we've got a while, so I'll throw it in there.
I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with it. I've had it for a while now. I had one of these units when you had the demo that you sent over. I had it just for a few days, and I've had this one now for going on. Oh man, this is going on week 2, and I'm sure I'll have it quite a bit longer. But I've got to say, and I'm going to just put this out plain and simple. I in the past, I think I've been a little bit, maybe a little bit too critical on the base magnification being so high starting out, especially on the 736, with it started on the 6 power. The 536, like Jason said, starts out on a 4 power. And in the past, I think I've been a little critical about it. So Jason, I'm asking for everybody to give this thing a chance, because here's what I realized and what I noticed was I had the FLIR scope. I had the 736, and now I've got the 536. It's a 4 power base, just like I said. I was still trying to hunt like I was using a 1.6 or a 2 power scope, and you can't do that. So what I've done in just making an adjustment was I'm just having to scoot back. But I'm going to tell you, the image on this 320 by 256 Bose thermal core unit is really unbelievable. It is one of the best pictures that I've seen, especially at that resolution level. And what I'm noticing is that the identification range is very far, and we'll get into the specifics of that. But really, it's just I'm used to taking a 50-yard shot. With this unit, I'm stepping back, and I'm stepping back to 75, even 100 yards, and I'm just taking further shots back, especially on a bigger group of hogs. Where there's going to be follow-up shots, you definitely want to scoot back further so you can set yourself up for a decent, when they start running, you have a chance to keep all of the hogs in your lens or more than you can. You definitely can't do that at 50 yards. So, really, I just had to change my mentality when it came to the way that I hunted hogs, and I've always been used to just stalking up as close as I can. Obviously, because of the videos look better the closer you are. But this thing has so much magnification, you really don't have to scoot up as close as you would normally with another thermal scope. So maybe that's even a better thing, because if you're not having to scoot up as close, maybe that's less of a chance that you're going to spook them and they're going to run off. So I'm admitting right now on the Late Night Vision Show podcast, talking about the 536, I have been a little overcritical about it in the past. And I'm going to say the 536 with the 50 millimeter lens it produces a great quality image. I've shot several hogs with this scope already, and really what I'm impressed with is the identification range. And I'll talk a little bit about that right now. I have a property that I've been hunting on here recently. It's actually a tree farm, a nursery, and it's from where I stand to the back corner tree line is 700 yards. and it's on a hill. So I'm standing on a hill overlooking there's like 400 or 500 acres. I can see all of it from this hill. There is a deer feeder at exactly 580 yards from where I'm standing, and we laser ranged it so we know exactly what the distance is. The picture on that base 4 power is so good that at that deer feeder, I can see deer, and I can almost count the points on the antlers of these deer. That's how good the picture is.
Wow.
So IDing,
Gosh.
yeah, IDing at 600 yards with this scope is no problem at all. I've done it. I've done it night after night. I've tested it. I've got video of it that's going to be coming out, showing the ID range of this. I ID'd a hog last night that was on the very back corner that was almost 800 yards. Now I'm going to say it was a little bit difficult to tell, but I was still about 80% sure that it was a hog. And we got up there and it was a hog. So, I mean,
That is a long,
and
long
I'm telling you,
ways.
we've studied this land. The guy that I've been going out with, this is his property. He deer hunts out there a lot. He ranges everything. He lasers everything because he's got deer stands and deer feeders. He wants to know exactly the yardages for when he deer hunts. So we sat out there and ranged everything, and we know the distances from every corner and from every position. And I'm telling you, um, they were using different scopes. I'm not going to name the scopes that they were using, but I was having to pull out the FLIR 536 to get the determination of exactly what it is when we were IDing stuff at 400 or 500 yards and over. And I'd lift up that scope and I knew right away. I was like, oh, that's a deer, or that's two deer standing up and 4 laying down with their heads up. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Jason, it's the quality, even of the videos when I shot a hog at 50 yards, and it kind of ran towards me. I mean, you could see which side of the hog that it had been laying in mud. I mean, it's an unbelievable picture. I'm gonna tell you, it performs well.
Wow.
I don't
It
have
is.
any. Yeah, I don't have any problems. Didn't have any problems with it. One of the things that we've talked about that comes up quite often, the negative of this scope is it doesn't record audio, and that's definitely something that comes up. But there's an easy fix around that by recording audio on your cell phone, background noise, anything like that. If you're actually using this video for something that you're sharing, content that you're sharing, a lot of people don't really care about the sound. They just like the video. And I've talked to a lot of people that it doesn't really
Yeah.
bother them.
No, I agree. Yeah, I was just gonna say on the audio deal, unless you're recording for YouTube or something, if you're just showing it to your buddies, your friends, I don't think most people care
Right.
about the audio because you're gonna hear nothing but a few crickets chirp and then a muffled shot. So there's really not much to it. I mean, if you're trying to record and get conversations and all that stuff, you're even on the pulsars that have that. It is a muffled recording and it works. But if you really want good audio, you're better off just using your, phone or something like that to, put on the voice memos and record that way.
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. And that's one really the downside to the unit would be that the audio. But I'm going to tell you, this is imagine when and if FLIR comes out with this same 50 millimeter lens with a 640 resolution. If that day ever
Mm.
comes, I can't imagine how that image is going to look, because right now it looks amazing, and it's a great scope and it performs well.
Well, I'm going to go on the record and say this, and I may have, egg on my face when it finally happens. So, you can record this down. I'm not going to make any exact predictions of exactly, how good it's going to be or not, but I'll say this. I'll say that when that 640 core boson comes out in a thermal rifle scope, I think it is going to give the Trijicon scopes a run for their money, those BAE cores. Now, I don't think it's going to be as good. I don't think it's going to be better, but I think it's going to be knocking on their door. And I mean, the hope is that it's going to be at a better price point. But I'm telling you,
Right.
these bosons in this 320 are excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, they really are, and they've done a good job. When you pick up this unit, it is it's a solid unit. You can tell that it's put together well. Another thing about the buttons on the top, it's a different layout than some of the others. Obviously, with Pulsar or whatever, the buttons aren't as easy to press, I think, as the Pulsars are. It's a little bit more, I guess, rigid to maneuver in the night. Takes some getting used to. That's probably a very minor thing, because once you get used to it, you know what you're doing. But the buttons aren't as easy to use at night. But it's other than that, with sighting it in, I've never had a problem with any FLIR unit sighting it in. It's always been pretty easy to me. And they do hold zero very well, and the quick detach mount is a nice feature. So really, that's my experience with the FLIR PTS536. And if there's I know we get comments about scopes all the time. We get questions about them all the time. Please hit me up if you have any other questions. But I know Jason's got a chance to, you've used this for a little bit. What have you found out with your experience?
Um, I feel like every time we do this, I go, yeah, me too, because I do agree. I mean,
Me too.
you get out there and you use them, and I know you've killed a lot of hogs with this. You have sent me a bunch of pictures of a lot of hogs that you've killed with it, and so I know you put it through the paces. But I used when we had the demos in. I had it, a few more weeks, and so I did use it a good bit then, and then now the final production units. But I've been really really impressed with it. Again, image quality, and tell me what you think about this, Hans. But I'm willing to go on the record and say that I think it's the best image quality, maybe besides the 736. I think the 736 is the best, but I think this is the second best image quality of anything in that 300 core resolution. I mean, I'll just go out on the, just say it. I think this has a better image quality than the Pulsar Apex and Trail, like XQ38, XQ50s, those 384 cores. Do you agree or disagree?
Yep, I will agree with that. And as everybody that listens to this show and watches any of the videos, they know that I regularly shoot with a Pulsar, have for a long time. But yeah, I agree, Jason. I think it is in that 300 resolution range. I think it does have the best picture. Plain and simple.
I do. I agree. I think that it is worth noting that uh, the FLIR, that boson core, is a 320 by 256, whereas the Pulsar is a 384 by 288. It's not a huge amount, but the Pulsar does have a few more pixels, and I think sometimes that is noticeable as you zoom in more and you get into that digital zoom. But I'm going to tell you, the pulsars are that 17 microns, which is really, it's been great. It's been the industry standard in the last year or so. But this 12 micron boson, I think that really gives it the edge over the pulsars. Again, they're not to Trijicon level. I'm not at all going to compare it to that, and I'm not going to compare these boson 320s. I'm not going to say that they're better than 640s, but I will say on base magnification, not using digital zoom, I think that these 536 and the 736 are almost rivaling some 640s. I mean, it's again, I'm not going to go out there and say they're the same, but I will say that man, they're really, really good.
It's a great picture.
So, yeah, and but with all that said, back to, I mean, you don't need me to rehash what Hans already has, and I know what he was talking about with being hard on these for magnification. And look, uh, I talk to guys on the phone, every day, every week. It's what I do, and the thing that Hans and I and a lot of guys in that are hunting conditions like we do and in the way that we do, which is spot and stalk. And that is what we do. Is we are spot and stalkers. We don't sit in. I mean, generally speaking, we don't sit in fixed locations. We don't sit in stands. We don't sit over corn feeders. If we do sit over, bait piles or corner, that sort of thing, we're normally close. And if we see something out there, we go to it. I completely understand by talking to guys on the phone that are hog hunters that they don't all have the ability to go to those hogs. And a lot of times, I hear guys that tell me, like, I don't know how you do it. We can't get 40 yards from our hogs. I mean, they're smart. They see us. They
Right.
smell us. They look up, so not everybody has that luxury. And I know that's something that we just get spoiled to. And then for the coyote hunters, look, I mean, you guys, y'all have it a lot worse than we do. All you can do is call and hope they come. You can't go running out there to them and try to get closer. And I think that's one reason that this 536 is already been extremely popular with my coyote hunters, and those are the guys who have been calling and putting in the pre-orders for sure. It's like, look, we got to have it. We need something, and the Pulsar Apex and Trail XQ50s. They're a 2.7 optical, and that's the highest magnification that Pulsar currently has right now, 2018. And so that is normally what the coyote hunters have been doing, and a lot of my hog hunters in farm country. And now I'm just seeing those guys going, okay, we need a little something else. We're looking at the 536. So I think it's going to be great for them. And the other thing that, and Hans and I were talking about this today, is that some of the best-selling scopes on the market are the Sightmark photons, and you've got those are the digital infrared scopes. You've got the ATN X sights that are in a similar price range. They're in that $550 to $800 range, and those scopes, the ATNs are 3-power and 5-power optical. The photons are 4.5 and 6.5 power optical, and that's a lot of magnification. But those are extremely popular scopes, and never do I have guys calling me with a 4.5 power scope and going, oh, it's just too much. You just get used to it. You just learn how to use it, and you don't want to get things up there at 15 or 20 yards. There's no reason to do that. And now, I guess if there is one negative to the 536, and I think this again goes back to the 736 as well with its 6-power, I think you are going to have to learn that scope, which you have to do this with any thermal, but you're going to have to learn that and know what an animal or an object, another tree or a cow or a deer, whatever it is, coyote, what that animal looks like at what yardage it is. Because when you get that much magnification, and Hans, I think you had a story about this. I think you said that you shot a hog that you thought was a closer range, and come to find out he was a lot further, and you still killed him. But what was the story with that?
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because we were stalking up on a pretty good sized hog under a deer feeder at the same place that I was talking about before. So we stalked up, and I'm used to using a different scope, lower magnification. I'm looking through the 536. I'm stalking up to what I think is about 75 yards. So I get in a position where I feel comfortable enough to take a shot, and if he runs, I can take a good follow-up shot. The shot the hog, made a great shot. It was a headshot, dropped right away. The next day, the guy that I was hunting with went out and ranged it, and it was 138 yards. I thought I was at 75 yards. It was actually 138 yards. So it takes some getting used to. You really have to work with it. You got to just get out and know where you're hunting, know your properties, and get out and range different fixed objects out in the fields and stuff. This tree is this far away from this point, and it completely threw me off, because like I said, I thought I was at 75 and I was at 138, which is a very big difference.
Well,
it's not.
That's right, and we've gotten used to at the lower magnification in the 1.5, excuse me, 1.5, 1.6 power, the 2.1, the 2.7. We've learned what animals look like at that range, and so we kind of know it's something new to us jumping up into this 4-power Same thing when I pick up a photon. I've got to totally clear my brain of what I'm used to in the lower magnification. I got to go, well, this is 4.5 power. This animal is going to look a lot bigger than it really is.
Right. Yeah, and that's again from just having that experience with it. Where I saw the huge advantage was just being able to ID something from very far away and being able to because the last thing you want to do is not be able to ID something 600 yards away, and you walk down there to find out that it's a deer, because I tell you that's a
That's right.
long walk. That's a lot of walking through tough grass. But um, the ranges are something you can get used to.
Yeah, I want to bring up one more thing on that. We're talking about these ID ranges, detection ranges, and I think this is a fair time to bring this up about these scopes. And this is probably not going to be popular with some people, but this is one thing that Hans and I do is we give our opinions, and you don't,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you've got yours, we've got ours, and you don't have to take our advice. But I believe, and I'm not gonna speak for Hans. I think he's gonna agree with me though. I believe that most guys that do a lot of night hunting, I mean, again, I don't care if it's digital night vision or thermal, are you're going to find that the large percentage of them are going to tell you that you need to keep your shots at 200 yards or less. I mean, I'm just picking that number. I prefer a lot less than that, but I would say 200-yard shot at night is a long ways. And I'm not saying that you're not a marksman. I'm not saying that you can't make the shot, whatever. But I think when you get out to those ranges, especially with thermal, you are just, every time you go up another yard, you are increasing the chance for a mistake. And whether that mistake is just the animal moving and you get a bad shot, whether it is a misidentification and you think it's a coyote and it's actually a deer laying down with its head sticking up, or you think that it's a hog and it's a deer or calf with its head down in the grass. Again, even if you can ID it and you're sure of it, I'm just not one of these guys that's advocating 300 and 400 yard shots at night. I just don't think it's wise for
Well,
a lot of reasons. Even if you know what's out there. I mean, I hunt my own
yeah.
property, and I know that at the end of 500 yards, there is a creek bank, there is a wall of trees and another 50 acres before it gets to the neighbor's property, and he's got another 1,000. I mean, there's nothing there, but I still don't want to take those long shots like that.
It's hard to drop a hog at 250 yards, or even a coyote, especially at 250 yards at night, and get a clean shot on it and have a hog drop with one shot. It's tough. It's tough with a 308. It's tough with any caliber at that distance. So yeah, I don't even mess with those unless I'm throwing up a Hail Mary, but I
Yeah.
rarely do that. But I'm going to tell you also with this scope, we had a chance to at 350 yards, we saw a coyote, and we also saw some regular just stray dogs, and you could tell the difference plain as day
Could you tell the
between.
difference? That's
Yep.
interesting.
And the way that I could tell the difference was just the way that they were moving. You know, there was a little bit of a similar look through the scope at 350 yards, but you could tell the difference with the tail, and also just the behavior. The regular dogs were prancing around a little bit more than the coyotes were, but
You could
yeah, 350 yards.
you
Yeah.
saw the collar with the vet tag hanging down. Well,
My buddy was cussing because those dogs were headed right to where that hog was, and they went down there and scared that hog off.
oh
And we
man.
had walked forever stalking down there, and those dogs bit us down there and scared that big hog off. And I'm not going to say what he wanted to do to that hog because it's probably not very
Yeah.
legal or even, yeah, but
Hmm.
it was just one of those things. He wasn't too happy about it, but yeah, I mean, you could tell that's how good the ID range is on this scope and the detail that you see at those distances. Definitely, definitely, and it makes you a better shooter, makes you a safer shooter if you can ID
I agree.
without a doubt in your mind at those
I
distances.
agree. Well, and I know that Hans and I have sat here for 20 minutes and talked about the magnification, but honestly, that's why you're going to buy this scope. You're going to buy this scope because you want more magnification than what Pulsar is putting out right now. You need more than 2.7. And when people ask me to compare something like so they say, hey, compare the Pulsar Trail XP50 and the Thermosight Pro PTS536, and I'm like, gosh, it's I don't really know what to compare. You're taking a 640 core 1.6 power and comparing it to a 320 4 power, or this is just a hard scope to compare without comparing it to just say the 736, because
Mm-hmm.
once you get above 3 power, you're up there in the range. So anyway, I think at the end of the day, if you force me to say who this scope is good for, it's going to be really good for older guys. I hear that a lot. A lot of guys say, look, my eyesight is not what it used to be. I do need to get a good, clear picture, and I'm looking to take the one shot kill, and that's what I want, even if that hog's close or that coyote. I want a good, clean single shot. It's going to be great for you. I think it's going to be great for coyote hunters, obviously. Going to be great for the guys who are hunting hogs again and just can't get up close and need a little more magnification. I don't think it's going to be good for guys who are, say you're sitting on your bow stand and you've got a feeder at 30 yards. I don't think there's any reason to buy this scope if that's you, but I think if you're taking a lot of shots out there that are 75 to 100 yards or more, then I think this is going to be a very, very good choice for you at that point.
Well, hey, guess what?
What?
I thought of something you missed.
Man, what?
The price.
Oh, hey, these guys don't care. Nobody. It's just money, right? I
Just
mean,
throw
just
those $100 bills
oh
on the table.
man, just hundreds. That is. I did not talk about the price. All right, the price is $3,795. That's $37.95, and that puts it in a absolute direct competition with the Pulsar Trail XQ50.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
again, we talk about comparing scopes. I get asked, how do those two compare? And look, that's not an accident that Flir made that scope $5 cheaper than the Pulsar. I mean, they knew what they were doing. That's a wise decision by Flir.
Absolutely.
But it is, in my opinion, it's still very hard. If you need 4 power, then that 2.7 probably won't do it for you. And
Right.
if you need 2.7, then that 4 is too much. So there
Yeah.
is that big
Yeah.
of a difference. And I think that's something else that if you haven't looked through a lot of these scopes, you haven't had the opportunity, the difference in 1.5 power and 2.1, or in 2.1 and 2.7, or 2.7 and 4, you think, well, that's not much. I'm used to taking my
Mm-hmm.
daytime scroping, going from 4 to 14, cranking it all the way up. It's a lot at night. I mean,
Right.
every half power is a lot, and it's a big
Mm-hmm.
percentage when we're talking about smaller. If you're going from a 1.5 to a 2.1, that's a large percentage jump in magnification. So,
And and I think that everybody knows this, but I'm just going to say this just for the people out there that are new to this, that when you do zoom in with the FLIR or any scope, it does break down that resolution. The image is not as clear. So, nobody out there think that if bumping this thing, to 2 times or 4 times zoom, that you're still going to get the same crystal clear picture. It's not. So just everybody out there that is just wondering that, for those of you that don't know. But again, thank you for letting us know the price, Jason. And I know that you've just got a big shipment of these things
that's
coming
right.
in, right?
That's right. We've got a shipment in now. They are on the shelf. Don't know how long they're going to last. We have a smaller parcel shipment that should be coming in next month. That's when it's scheduled, and that's going to be all of our shipments for a while. Flir is way behind on these units. It took a long time to get them out just because their orders were so deep, but we finally got them. And, I don't know what it's going to be like this fall, come, October, November, December for these units. So it's not a sales pitch to go run buy it from me today. I think that they are going to be around, but I think they're going to be in limited supply, starting in the cooler months, because I think people are going to start snatching these things up.
Right. Yeah. We've been waiting for these things for a long time, but I tell you, it's been worth the wait. This is of the three FLIR scopes that have come out recently. This is definitely my favorite one. Between the 233, the 736, and now the 536 is definitely my favorite one. Jason, I've got a video coming out this week. I'm doing the full review of the PTS536, so you'll be able to see that this week on YouTube. You can find me at Hans, that's HANSETX on YouTube. It's the same thing on Instagram, Hans ETX. Jason, where can they find you?
Yeah, I've got a video as well that I'm fixing to publish. I would love to say that it will be out when this podcast is published, but I've got a busy week, so I don't know if I'm going to get it out that quick. But I already have the video. It is from the 536, and I think it's going to come in really handy for a lot of people. Basically, it is me videoing a group of hogs that there was a pretty large sow, probably, I'm just guessing 175 pounds or so. Another one in there that, might have been 70, 80 pounds, and about 10 piglets. And I videoed that group of hogs starting at about 375, 380 yards. I've got all the exact ranges of how far they were, but I went from that 375 down to, 275, 175, all the way down to 75 yards, basically from the 375, 380 down to 75. And again, I've got all those ranges written down. I was taking notes on where I was at because I was on my own property, and I've got a range set up actually with some targets, so I knew exactly where I was. And anyway, I think it's going to be a pretty neat video of just showing you what those animals look like from all those different distances. So we're going to get that out ASAP, and you will be able to find that on my YouTube channel, which is Outdoor Legacy Gear. So you can go to YouTube and search for Outdoor Legacy Gear. Please subscribe to the channel. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. We are always there, and I'm always glad to answer any questions. But outdoorlegacygear.com, outdoorlegacygear.com. That's where you go if you want to see all the scopes, you want to see the specs, you want to read some reviews. Got a lot of customer reviews on a lot of the different scopes that came straight from the customers. You can read those there. You can always call me. That is the best way. If you have questions, just call me at 877-350-1818. And Hans, tell them how they can find the Late Night Vision Show and send us some of their feedback and call us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want to thank everybody for listening. And man, we're continuing to get great feedback on the shows. A lot of people, we get messages from people listening on road trips. I got one today that a guy was listening on the road on the way back from Alabama. Either he was headed to Alabama or on the way back. I can't remember, but just playing them one right after the other. So we want to thank y'all for listening. We want you to call in because we want to give you a chance to have your voice heard. We're going to play your call on a future podcast. We won't give any of your information other than your first name and location, but we definitely want to hear your voice. Please call in with your questions, any comments that you have about any of the shows, and you can do so at 903-833-4461. Again, it's 903-833-4461. Please call us. We want to hear your voice. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be back again next week. You'll have another podcast for you waiting in your I don't know if it's your mailbox or your whatever, your notification, but when you wake up, if you don't wake up too early, I don't know, but if when you wake up on Thursday morning next week, you're going to have another notification for another podcast. We appreciate you joining us. And for Jason and I, thank you, and we'll see y'all next week.